Good afternoon, welcome to Rundlii Gaming. We're going to be doing a video on the game of Tokaido. And this one is done by Anthony Brauza. And this one is a travel through Japan. Then as you travel through Japan, you're going to do different things, see different sites, you're going to paint different pictures, you're going to collect souvenirs, you're going to eat food. And it's more about the journey of the game as compared to just, running through it as quickly as possible. We're going to kind of go over the gameplay of it and how it actually plays on it. At the start of the game, you're going to be randomly drawn or given to these characters, and then you're going to choose which one you want. Each of them have a special ability on it, and so each of them will have different perks depending on which one you choose. And the book's pretty good about going over what each of them do. Like in this case, if you go to one of these encounters, you get to draw two and choose which one you want. So that one's a little bit better at just kind of figuring out which particular ability you want to use. He also starts out with 9 money, so that might be a good way to balance out some of the things he could do otherwise. Like this one, whenever they go and eat food at one of these locations, he'll be able to paint a free painting. And then those will give him additional victory points as well. And some of these are going to do more so with like the shop. So whenever they go to the shop, they get certain benefits. And others will deal with other things pertaining to the food. And a lot of those will manipulate different things, or it may decrease the cost dramatically or make the cost nothing. So each of these are going to have their little perks depending on what kind of benefit you want to go with. And then as far as the game goes, you're basically going to go on this one track, so it's basically just one track through. And as you hit different locations, it's going to give you different perks. And we'll kind of go over what each of these locations are. At the start of the game, you'll be starting at this location here, and then you'll start to move this way. And you determine first player depending on how you want to actually go through and actually determine it. And then once, like some people may just do rolling. Like for example, I may just roll a dice and see who goes first based on that. But you could choose however you want that to be. Now the first location that you'll run into here is the shop here. And how the shop works is you're going to draw 3 of these cards. And you just want to make sure you give them a good shuffle. And excluding any kind of benefits from the characters that you play, these will kind of give you different cards here. And there are 4 different types. We'll go ahead and just pick out the others as well. Now in this, you'll see there is like a cost at the bottom here. So this one costs 2 coins, this one costs 1. There'll be 4 different symbols. One has like a sushi type symbol. The other one has like I want to say like a kimono type dress, maybe. The other one's kind of like a shirt. And this other one looks like it's some sort of balloon thing. I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to be. But there are 4 different types of symbols that could be drawn. And then there's different costs depending on which one you buy. So this one costs 2, 1, 2. And then you're going to see some numbers right above the cost here, which will have like 1/3/5/7. And what that means is if you have 1 in a full set, you'll get 1 victory point. But let's say if I bought the sushi symbol as well as the kimono dress, I'll get 1 plus 3. Because 1 for the first part of that set, and this one for the second part of the set. So I'd get 4 victory points. Let's say if I were to put down, I'll actually move these out of the way real quick. So let's say if I put the kimono dress down, and the sushi one, and another sushi one. So far I have 2 in this set, and this one's starting as a separate set. So I would get 1 point plus 3 points, so that's 4, plus 1 is 5. Now if I were to put on a shirt, that's different from these other 2 symbols, so I would get the 1 plus 3 plus 5. So 1 for this, 3 plus for 5. But let's say if I already had these 3 in play, if I drop that, I just get the 5. So as you add to these sets, you'll get additional victory points. Let's say the next time I buy souvenirs, I put this down, this one's going to be worth 7. And then you collect those victory points as you get them. So that'll be a neat little, so it's usually pretty good to get a lot of victory points on this as well. But that's just one means of doing well, is just by collecting tons of souvenirs. And each time you hit one of these locations, you can draw 3 of these. Anything that you don't use, you're going to basically put at the bottom of the deck face down. And that allows it to be drawn later in the round as well. Next location, well, actually the next location will be the temple. And how the temple works is you will donate money. So if I donate 1 coin, let's say if I'm light blue, I will get a victory point for every coin that I donate. At the end of the game, you're going to get a certain number of victory points based on first place, second place, third place, fourth place, etc. So if I'm in first place, so if I have the most coins in the temple, I will get 10 victory points. I'll get 7 if I'm in second place, 4 if I'm in third, and then fourth place if I have, 2 if I have fourth place. The next location we can look at will be the event place. In this case, there will be a couple different cards that we're going to look at here. So as you can see, there's a variety of different events that you can play off of. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher most of these Japanese names. But Shokunin, perhaps. In this case, you'll draw and get a souvenir, and that'll be just a free souvenir that you gain. Miko, this will put 1 coin from the bank into the temple reserve here, and then you'll get a victory point for doing that. Kugo, or Kuji, because Kuge, you're going to gain 3 coins. So if I draw this card, I'm going to make 3 coins. The Samurai will give me 3 victory points. So if I draw this card, I get 3 victory points. Now these ones all have the same name, but they're a little bit different. And it's Anabito. If I drew this one, I would get a free painting of the water. If I drew this one, I get a free painting of the green one here. And then if I get this one, I'll get a free painting of the mountains. So these will give me different paintings depending on which one I drew. And those are the different event cards. So these can be a little bit different depending on which one you drew. So sometimes you'll get different perks depending on. These you will hold in on your side of the board, because at the end of the game there will be different benefits you can get. So like whoever had the most event cards are going to get a bonus 3 victory points. Whoever gets the most souvenirs will get additional 3 victory points as well. Same thing with the highest cost food total, we'll get 3 victory points here. And then this one will be for whoever has the most hot springs, will get victory points. So as you draw these event cards, you do want to keep them on your side of the board, along with the souvenirs and hot springs, etc. So go ahead and put that away. The next space here is you will get the next painting. And these are going to be something you'll build as you go. If you get the first one here, you'll see that it shows it as 1 victory point. If I get the next painting, it'll be 2 victory points. Next painting will be 3 victory points. If I was the first person to complete this, I will get another bonus 3, because this will go to the first person that completes an entire set of green. And then there will be spaces for each of these. So you'll have a mountain one. And then the mountain one does the same thing. So 1 for the first one, 2 for the second one, 3 for the third one, 4 for the fourth one. The last one is the water one, which goes to 5. So 2 for that one, 3 for that one, 4 for that one, 5 for that one. So as you can see, these are going to be the paintings that come up. And as I said, the first one to get each of these is going to get an additional bonus 3 points. So that's one of the perks of getting it done before everybody else. You usually get some extra bonuses as well. And those can net you quite a bit of points as well. And that's the cool thing about the game too, is there's a lot of different avenues of getting victory points. You may not do any paintings at all, but if you get a bunch of souvenirs, you can get a ton of victory points. If you get a ton of donations to the temple, you'll get tons of victory points. And there's a lot of different avenues, which does make it a little bit better for that. The next location will be the hot spring. And with the hot spring, there are going to be there's a couple different ones for these. They're not as many cards, but these are going to be straight victory points. You could draw a 2 victory point or a 3 victory point, and that'll be the only thing that's in there. This will be another card you want to collect. So whoever has the most hot springs at the end of the game is going to get a bonus 3 victory points as well. So if I draw, say, this 3, I automatically get 3 victory points for going to the hot spring this time. Or I could draw the 2 and get 2. So there's not a lot of variety with these, but again, they do add up after a while if you get a bunch of them. Now, another thing to consider too is the fact that as you travel, the next person's turn will always be based on the person that's last in order. So we're going to kind of go over the initial setup as well as how the game functions. Actually, one thing we're going to go over as well is food real quick. So we'll draw the player number +1. And as you can see, there are different types here. You have tofu, sashimi, soba, and duburi. Each of these will have different cost. So this one costs 2, 3, 2, 3. Some of them will cost 1, some of them will cost up to 3. These are all worth the same number of victory points. So if you buy the tofu, it's worth the same amount as this one here. Now, the only reason the cost will kind of matter is what you can afford compared to who has the most valued food at the end of the game as well. So whoever has the highest valued food is going to get an additional 3 victory points at the end of the game. But otherwise, it's kind of based on which one you can afford at the time as well. So if I were to buy duburi, the next person that gets to the end will have to choose from one of these 3. So let's say they take the tofu. The next person then has to choose between one of these 2. So they might take the soba there. At this point, that last food will be discarded. And then those 3 would go to different players. Now, something to always consider is that you cannot take a food that you currently have. So you can't eat tofu again if you already have tofu in your food that you've eaten already. So sometimes you can be blocked out of different foods that you can eat if there are none that are different from the ones you currently have. Alright, so we're going to kind of go through a couple turns here just to kind of show different ways that the game plays. So we're going to take green here, yellow, and then purple. And we'll just kind of randomly go, purple will be first, yellow second on there, and then green third. You'll use the little marker to show victory points, and it'll be on this little track in the back here. It goes from 0 to 100. Alright, so we have everybody set up at this point. We went with yellow here, green here, purple here. They will all start off with a certain number of money at the beginning of the round. So this one starts out with 9, this one starts out with 6, this one starts out with 3. So it's different amounts, and it kind of balances out things a little bit. He can do some souvenirs a little bit cheaper. This one, if he draws an event card, he can choose to draw 2, and then choose the one he actually wants to keep. And then this one here will get a free painting anytime they eat at one of the ends. So they're all going to have different little benefits according to which character each of the players chose. We kind of randomly chose the different players starting here. So in this case, green's actually going to begin, then yellow, then purple. So the first thing that green can do is he can jump to any space he wants between this end and that end. So for example, he could jump all the way to this end if he wanted to, though it would not be a very good idea because then he would miss out on all this stuff. Because purple and yellow are going to continue moving until they get to this end as well. So purple, let's say purple jumped to like events right now. Then that means yellow could go to this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then that, all the way through until he hits all the different locations. So That's why you do want to kind of go slower with it and just kind of see all the different sites in Japan as well. So let's say so we got green here, and his benefit is to get some of these cheaper. So he would probably obviously want to go to the souvenir shop first. He will draw 3 items. And with his particular ability, he can choose to pay 1 for one of the souvenirs. So let's say if he wanted to buy this one and this one, he could choose to pay for one of the, pay 1 coin for one of the souvenirs. So in this case, he'll pay 2 plus 1. In that case, it'll cost him 3, unless he wanted to buy all 3. Now, due to this, he bought 1 of the first set and the second one in the same set. So he gets 1 point plus 3 points. So he'll get 4 in this case. So green will move to 4. Now yellow would be able to go next. He does have a ton of coins, so he could go ahead and go to the souvenir shop, which he may go and do that. And then he'll have the same option at this point. And this will go face down underneath the deck. 2 and 3. Now he doesn't get the same benefit as this other character did, so he'll have to actually pay face value on him. So he has 2 sushi ones and then 1 kimono. So if he wants to do the same thing and get the 2, he could do that, or he could just buy all 3. If he buys all 3, which will cost him 5, we'll probably go and just do that. 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the first one in this set, and the second one in the same set. So he'll get plus 1 plus 3, so it's 4 points. But he'll get plus 1 because it starts a different set. So he'll have 5 points total. And that goes to... So I accidentally mixed up which one I was supposed to move first, but we'll just go ahead and go with it and say that yellow is the next player instead. Now purple will have to go. And when purple moves, he cannot go to the souvenir shop because both spaces are currently filled. So his next option is he could go to the temple and donate money. He doesn't have a lot of money to begin with, so it may not be very beneficial for him to go to the temple. So the next thing he could go to, if he chooses, would maybe be to the event area. That could give him different things like money or victory points, depending on which one he draws. So let's go ahead and just go to event for him. In this case, he drew Miko, which will take 1 coin from the bank and put it into his temple here. So he'll get 1 victory point for that. Then he keeps his card because in the future he could get a bonus if he has the most event cards. Now at this point, it'll be the person further from the road, even though they're in the same space. Yellow is the one that's off the road. He will be the next player to go. So he can go to the temple if he chooses. And with yellow, he has 4 coins left, so if he did so, he could donate 1 or 2 coins. Or he could try to go to one of the paintings to try to beat someone to... Because only one person can go to this green painting here. So if he jumps here, he could get a painting which will give him a victory point. Unless he wanted to go to the temple instead. So let's say if he wanted to just jump to the painting. He's going to get the first painting on it. And that goes to yellow here. So he'll get a victory point for getting this painting. That was yellow. Now green is the furthest one back. He can either go to the temple here, which if he does so, he could, donate some money to it, depending on if he wants to keep it for something else. Or he can jump to the hot springs, or he can jump to the mountains. Depends on kind of what he wants to do with it. And this is going to be one of the big things, because let's say if he jumps to the temple right now, let's say he donates a coin. That goes to green. He'll get a victory point. It's green's turn again, because he's currently behind on this. So then he could jump to, say, the hot springs, or he can go to get a painting if he wants to. But let's say he wants to go to the hot springs. He'll draw this card. He'll get 3 victory points. So 1, 2, 3. So he's now at 8. Now goes to purple's turn. And this is going to continue on until everyone gets to the end here. But let's say we fast forward a little bit, and let's say yellow's the first one to get to the end, then green got to the end afterward, then purple got to the end afterward. Yellow's going to initially draw the top 4 of these, and choose which one they want to take. So in this case, they can take the sashimi, dubori, dango, or uagani. Now in the case of yellow, he has the most money, so he could spend 3 if he wanted to, or he could just take this 1 for 1, which would probably be a better deal in the end. Now the difference is when he hits the later ones, if dango comes up, he could not buy dango again, so grabbing with the cheap one here may be more costly later, but it might be cheaper for now. So let's say if he wanted to grab this, then green would have the next choice. So at that point, he only has 2 coins, so he cannot actually buy food, at which point then he would have to pass. So he doesn't get to eat this round, so he won't get the victory points from it. And purple could then choose to eat if they want, because you don't have to buy something even if you can afford it. But most of the time, the amount of money you're going to spend on it is definitely usually worth getting it, because you might spend like 1 coin here to get 6 victory points, which is a pretty decent trade-off. And as I said, this will continue on throughout the game, and most of these places don't change much. I think the only place I didn't really go over is this gold location, which just means you get 3 coins every time you trigger on it. And then you'll make it to the next inn, you have a bunch more locations, next inn, a bunch more locations, and then when you hit this location, it ends the game. There's a variant to go backwards until you reach, you'll go all the way this way, then come all the way back. And in that particular scenario, that might be a little bit more lengthy of a game. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, and you basically try to get to Edo, and then you try to make it back afterward. But that's pretty much the game of Tokaido. At the end of the game, it's based on whoever has most victory points. There's a couple little bonuses that you can occur, as I said, for the different paintings, but you'll trigger those as soon as you get the full painting. So once you get all 3 green, for example, you'll get this one, and the first one of the mountain, first one of the water. Then as I mentioned, whoever has the most valued food, so if you have a bunch of 3 valued food and it's worth more money than anyone else's, you'll get those victory points there. Whoever has the most event cards, whoever has the most souvenirs, and whoever has the most hot spring cards. So this is just a little extra bonus. Unfortunately, the coins aren't worth anything at the end, so you do want to make sure you spend it if you have the money, because having 20 gold at the end, for example, does not really benefit you any way of having it. So sometimes spending that money is really a really good idea as well. But that's the game of Tokaido. It plays moderately quick. I mean, it's not a super lengthy game. You're probably looking at 45 minutes-ish, 30 to 45 on average. And you can play up to 5 players. And it's a very simplistic game, and it's really easy for most players to play. And as I said, there's a lot of different avenues to winning. So, you know, it's not clear-cut that like all souvenirs are going to be the easy way to win. A lot of times you kind of want to work around the advantages of your ability. Like the painter here, every time he eats food, he's going to get a painting. So he could easily get all his paintings done before everybody else, as long as he kind of focuses on that. Which means he can easily net, you know, the different bonuses for these before everybody else, as well as getting the initial points for putting down the painting itself. So, as I said, that's the game of Tokaido. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Definitely watch next week. We should have another one posted. So if you enjoyed this video and how to play this one, you should see another one next week as far as how to play another board game that we'll be doing. Otherwise, thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming, and you have a good day.